And for more analysis of last night's elections, joining us now is Matt Klink, a Republican strategist and political analyst. And we have Javier Palomarez, founder and CEO of the U.S. Hispanic Business Council. So first of all, thank you both for joining us today. Always a pleasure. And I'll start with you, Matt. How significant, in your view, is the sweeping wins last night for Democrats?
Well, look, if you're a Democrat, I think you look at last night as a plan for recovery from a disastrous November of 2024. They overperformed, or Democratic gubernatorial candidates overperformed in New Jersey and in Virginia. They won 3 Supreme Court seats in Pennsylvania, or they retained them. They picked up 2 statewide offices in Georgia. So it was a good night for Democratic candidates yesterday. Winning kind of smooths over a lot of the rough edges in a party. I think that the buzzword will be affordability heading into the 2026 midterm elections. The only thing that I think that the Democratic Party is going to have to reconcile is the push for a more progressive party versus the moderates. You have Havana on the Hudson with Zohran Mamdani in New York City. Couple that with the 2 moderates that got elected in Virginia and in New Jersey. So all in all, the Democrats should be very, very happy with yesterday's election results.
So Javier, let me go to you. How do you view yesterday's results?
I agree with Matt. Democrats are celebrating this morning. But I really saw, to me, it was less a vote toward Democrats than it was to moderate candidates, candidates that were pragmatic versus being focused on partisanship. They particularly in the case of Mickey Sherrill and Sponberger, they focused on tangible outcomes. They had a background and a history of bipartisanship. I think that's what people voted for, less than Republican versus Democrat necessarily. These 2 particular women happen to be Democrats and in that party. But I'd rather think of it, Matt, as people were looking for some kind of centrist kind of approach to things. And I think voters on both sides are getting tired of the extremes. And so what they found in these 2 candidates, at least in New Jersey and in Virginia, were 2 individuals that I think were focused on the kitchen table issues, the economic issues, on tangible outcomes, and less on the fighting and the bickering back and forth. And I think that's really what the message is. That's what I got out of it anyway.
Okay, so Matt, first, do you agree? And second, can you talk a little bit more about the margins in which the candidates won in Virginia and New Jersey? Double digits. Was the size of the win beyond what was expected in these states?
So I would agree in the sense that kitchen table issues rose to the forefront. And I think that, what I took from yesterday, among other things, is that the American public, they don't care which party is in power, but they want their kitchen table issues resolved. And the fact that Donald Trump has held the White House for 9 months and the Republicans have held both houses of Congress, they got the keys right now. And affordability is still an issue. Yes, gas prices are down. Yes, egg prices are down. But other things are more expensive. And I'll give you an example. Mickey Sherrill said that she promised not to raise taxes, and she said that she would work to get clean energy. So if she can deliver on that, she's going to do well. If she can't, the New Jersey electorate is going to react harshly toward her. And I'm sorry, what was your second question?
What do you make of the size of the wins, the margin?
Yeah, look, these were states that the Democrats won in November of 2024. So I don't think it was ever a question of Republicans winning. I do think, though, that the margin of victory indicates that there was a momentum in these races yesterday for Democrats, that it gave them a tangible and a visible opportunity to express their frustration with what they see is going on in Washington, D.C. And I don't necessarily believe that it's extreme one way or the other. I think that they looked and they said, am I better off than I was 9 months ago? And the answer to that question is no, or I'm not sure, and they reacted accordingly. And I think that the size of the vote is what really should send ripples through the Republican establishment, that they need to focus on domestic politics a lot more than they are in terms of international stuff. It's all great that Trump is doing what he's doing overseas, but the U.S. economy needs some care and feeding too.
So Javier, what about you? Does the results indicate do they indicate that voters feel less positive about the economy under the current administration?
I certainly they were more positive when this administration was a bit newer. They've grown less positive over time. The net of it is they don't feel terrible about the situation in the economy right now, but it isn't real clear in their mind exactly what they got for this deal. I also agree with, there appears to be a lot of attention on the international and global issues, perhaps rightly so. But that doesn't solve the problem for the average American family. What the folks we're talking to very clearly indicated is, look, I've got my business to run. I've got my family to take care of. I've got the issues that are right in front of me. And it's great that we're involved in other parts of the world and bringing peace. And, our leader is trying to be a global peacemaker. Get that. That's great. But I'm not sure what I'm going to do with, the next couple of months, the next year. It isn't clear to me. And I think what happened in the case of New Jersey and Virginia is you saw two women who were, again, very pragmatic. They didn't spend a lot of time being partisan. They spent a lot of time being pragmatic and having a common sense, authentic conversation with the audience. And that was the difference. They were focused on tangible outcomes. They weren't, bickering back and forth and name calling. There wasn't any effort toward that. What they focused on was, here's a better view for the future. Here's what I think I can do. Nothing too outlandish. And I think the voters very aggressively reacted to that. And the results are what we saw this morning.
So, Matt, do you think they're
right?
Matt,
to counter that, yeah. I mean, look, two things to counter that. When you're in a state like New Jersey that Kamala Harris won by 16, you don't have to go on the attack mode when you're campaigning in the state. So you can focus on your messaging and stay on message, because your opponent has to bring you down. And that's the same. Kamala Harris won by 6 points in Virginia. I will point out, too, that the silver lining for Democrats is that they did very well yesterday. But the clouds that emerge into that sky are that these elections are not indicative of performance in even year elections. Just look at what the Democrats did in 2023 before 2024. They won the governor's race in Kentucky. And the Democrats were saying, oh, this gives us a great opportunity to keep the White House, no matter who, for a Democrat. They picked up seats in Virginia. And yet what happened? Donald Trump won. So again, these races are quirky. They tend to focus on local issues and candidate qualities a lot more than broader political parties. So look, the Democrats are going to make great hay over this, and they should. I think that Vivek Ramaswamy said it best. The Republicans got their A kicked yesterday, and I think that he was right. But that doesn't mean that this is a trend going forward and the Democrats are on easy street. They've got some hard decisions going forward on whether their party is the Zoran Mondamni model or the Spanberger and Mickey Sherrill model, because both factions are vying for control of that party right now.
So, Javier, it's an interesting point that Matt has raised. So what do you think about the direction that the Democratic Party is going right now that it has a Democratic socialist as New York City mayor?
I don't know that spells the future for the entire party. Look, the Republican Party is struggling in and of itself. They themselves are trying to figure out kind of what direction they're going to go in. The fact of the matter is that I believe that the American people, and we're talking to business owners literally every day, are tired of the extremes. They're tired of a lot of talk, campaign promises. but frankly, nothing is being delivered. I think President Trump has done a great job of setting up some really good economics, but the delivery, the execution, again, I think he needs to be back home. He needs to be, guiding this ship. He set up some great, and I've been on your air many times talking about some of the great wins that this administration has put forth in terms of small business and the economy in general. But what you're seeing and what I'm hearing from our constituency is that they're tired of the bickering, the partisanship. They want to see more bipartisan collaboration in our elected leaders. And I think what you saw in New Jersey and Virginia has less to do with being Democrat or Republican. It had to do with a candidate that was talking to the people in an authentic fashion, that was elegant about what she was talking about in both cases, didn't make some huge promises, and didn't spend a lot of time bickering or putting other people down, but rather focused on what she was going to bring and what she was going to make possible for the people in both their states. And the results are what you got. People want moderators, people that lead from the center. And this is what we're seeing in both New Jersey and Virginia. By the way, Republicans that do the same thing could have the same kind of results. If you see Republicans talking about leading from the center, bipartisanship, tangible outcomes, economic and kitchen table issues that matter to the American family, they're going to win as well. So this could apply to either party. It has very little to do with whether someone is Democrat or Republican. And believe me, I talk to American people all the time. I'm not spending a lot of time in Washington, D.C. I'm talking to the Americans.
Hey, Javier. How are you going to feel when Abigail Sparrenberger does a partisan redistricting in Virginia? How does that affect kitchen table issues for Virginia voters? Because that's what the legislature is going to do. And the governor will likely support.
It may very well do that in response to what's happening in Texas. And again, I hope that we don't go there anymore. I hope that we can let the American people make the decisions that matter instead of the gamesmanship on both sides of the aisle. And look, Matt, you know a lot more about this than I do. I'm a simple businessman. But the fact of the matter is, I think Americans are tired of the gamesmanship. They're tired of the acrimony, and they want leaders, whether Republican or Democrat, to start leading from the middle and be centrist and start to collaborate with each other to move the American people and the American economy forward.
Okay, Matt, we just have a little bit of time left. Anything else you'd like to add? And also, I wanted to get your thoughts as well as to how you view Californians voting in favor of Prop 50.
It's a big win for Governor Gavin Newsom. He took a calculated risk, and that risk proved successful. What he did was very successful in California in the sense that he made the redistricting a choice between keeping California or siding with Donald Trump. And when the incumbent president has a 27% popularity rating in California, it was an easy choice, and it was a 65-35 win for the yes side. What it will result in is potentially 5 seats pickup for the Democrats. Unfortunately, what that does for Republicans, which have about 40% of the electorate, it means that they will have about 8% of the congressional seats in California. I will add, by the way, that Maryland is also considering redistricting. Maryland has 7 Democrats and 1 Republican. They get 40% Republican votes, so the Republicans will be completely disenfranchised. Look, redistricting has gone on in America since 1812. It's the most blatant political act. And historically, the Democrats have been way more successful and way more sophisticated at redistricting. I do find it ironic that when Republicans say we're going to do what Democrats are doing, that the Democrats react. All it is ultimately it's a race to the bottom, and we're going to get a lot more polarizing delegations, which, Javier, will make your move to the middle that much more impossible because there will be no reason to do so.
Well, all right. We do have to wrap up for this conversation today. Thank you both, Matt, Javier, for your time.
Thank you.